Sorry, my brakes are getting squirrely on me. I've had some boots on layaway here at Zapateria La Bailarina. Oh! 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 Wait, what? What? Oh! What? Oh! I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. Just goofing. New boot, goofing. Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. Oh! Oh! I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. Oh! I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. Just goofing. New boot, goofing. Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. Oh! 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 I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. I'm just goofing. New boot, goofing. Genuine ostrich. 3 payments. Oh!
Alright, hello. I am Goofy Boots. This is New Boot Goofin. Well, this is Charizard, but this is New Boot Goofin. There's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. A lot of you guys, you like to listen to some normie content, some documentaries or something like that, and I really like this this show called The Y-Files on YouTube. I love guy's name is AJ. He's got a silly little gimmick, a fish, calls him Hecklefish. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that while I paint up Charizard here. Yeah. Got some good eggs in chat. Awesome. Alright. So the Y-Files, they did a compilation the other day. And he talks about ancient mysteries and conspiracies and shit. Some really cool shit, and I like it. Desktop audio. Sorry, usually I have this all set up beforehand. Gotta make sure. Clickety clack, clickety clack. Dead air. So professional. My apologies for not having the stream be rewindable. I clicked the fucking, like I said in chat earlier, I clicked the knob thinking that that's what makes it rewindable, but apparently not. Apparently that makes it so that it's only live. So here you are. You're here when it's live. Thanks for being here. If you think I'm worth it, go ahead and hit the Rumble rant logo. Hey Casey, thanks for coming by. Is it because it's Friday and you got some free time? That'd be cool. I hope you have free time. We're gonna be doing some the Y-Files with AJ and Hecklefish. painting tits, twiddling knobs. That's what I do. That's my thing. Sorry if my my air conditioning unit is a little loud. All right. So here we go. The Y-Files.
Hey, thanks for clicking on a compilation episode. I know, another compilation. But I promised you a new video last week, and you got it, and you're getting a new one next week. I promise. We're getting caught up. In the next few weeks, we'll have more CIA cover-ups, some UFO stories. I'd also like to talk about
Renee.
portals and stargates.
Yes!
I think you're going to like what's coming. So today, we're revisiting ancient mysteries, and we do a lot of those on the channel, but I try to keep these compilations under or about 3 hours, so maybe we'll have to follow up with part 2 at some point.
We're gonna need more than that.
We probably are. All right, we're going to start with the ancient city found in the Grand Canyon. A man named G.E. Kincaid allegedly found an ancient underground city full of relics that he thought looked Egyptian or maybe from the Far East, but they were definitely thousands of years old. It was even covered in local newspapers, but then Kincaid...
It's a flexible model, and it's printed in place. That's what they call this. It's called a print in place. And it's printed with the wings upside down. Hold on. Let me put him the way he was printed. So he prints like this. Actually, the placeholder video before the stream goes live is usually a time-lapse video of whatever it is that I'm painting. I do not use a primer. I don't have one. Donate. I will get one if you donate. Anyway, so I usually what I do is I paint a thin layer and then I let it dry and paint on top of that. But this is how he prints. He prints straight like that, and the connections all print in place. And as soon as you pick them up off the print bed, you can move them around. I have other prints that are kind of like this. But anyway, stop distracting me. You stop. You stop it. You. If you like my stream, if you think I'm worth it, go ahead and hit a Rumble ramp. Any amount is fine with me. If you cannot afford it, it's fine. I understand. Biden is a piece of shit. What do you know? There it is. Killa Dodson for 2. Thanks for the show, Goofy Boots. No, thank you. Thank you. All right. So we'll get right back into AJ and Hecklefish, his little sidekick there.
called the Smithsonian,
right.
then
I'll
suddenly the story disappears.
The Smithsonian covers up a lot of stuff.
They do. Their shenanigans are sprinkled all over the channel, and they have millions of artifacts that we're just not allowed to see.
Oh, what do you know?
And don't try to visit the part of the canyon where this ancient city...
I wasn't trying to... I was joking, but thank you for the 5, Casey. Get yourself a primer if you want one. King. Oh my god, don't call me King. That's ridiculous. Call me King. I'll take it. I'll take it though. All right. Yeah, Hecklefish is awesome. Oh, you know what? Let me get a link for you guys. Oh, you guys can't see that. Okay. Sorry. I clicked off of there. Let me get a link for you guys. Not that this guy needs any of my help. He has like millions of followers. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here's his YouTube link. But he does have also a Rumble. It's in my algorithm here. Hold on. He's been uploading a lot of his stuff to his Rumble. Clickety clack, clickety clack. I would suggest, subscribing to his Rumble just because we're on here. But if you like you also want to subscribe to AJ's YouTube, go for it. We're Rumble people around here. He's got a lot of good content. I binge his content constantly. I found him a couple months ago when I started getting into normie content. All right, back at it. Oh, and if you also want to donate regularly without having to do Rumble rants when I'm live, there's a link in the description to my Ko-fi page. I am setting up my store page so that you can buy some of these models. I have to set up an individual store page for each of them. I have to clear my desk. I have to set up my lights again and take pictures, do full holy shit descriptions of them. But soon I will be offering my 3D prints to those who want them. Anyway, back to the normie content. I will be stopping every once in a while to comment on what this guy is saying, because I have a stream and that's what I do. I comment. All right.
Allegedly is, because if you do, out of nowhere, you're going to see unmarked planes and black helicopters, and I'm going to show you this in the episode.
Hey, since we fund the Smithsonian, shouldn't we be able to audit them anytime we want?
Well, I think we should be able to audit any part of the government we want. It's our money.
Audit the Smithsonian!
Oh,
And
and
audit the Fed!
Amen, brother.
Hecklefish is base as fuck, by the way.
Hang on, honey, hang on. I'm gonna deal with it. Just give me a second. Will you calm down?
Okay,
Hey,
here's
you-
another thing.
What are you doing?
He incorporates his ad reads with Hecklefish. They're funny. They're unique every single time. I'm not going to skip his ads. Normally I skip ad reads for content that I'm stealing and I'm putting in the corner of my stream. But his are funny, and I like them and I watch them.
Glad you're there. Look, I'm in the midst of an emergency. I need to borrow your car, $2,000, and 2 pair of your wife's patios.
What is going on? You were supposed to be here 2 days ago,
But,
but...
but there's been extenuating circumstances.
Extenuating circumstances.
It means beyond my control.
I know what it means.
Okay, so car, cash, pantyhose, stat.
Just calm down a minute. What is the emergency?
Gertie and I have a photo shoot for the Modern Goldfish.
What the heck is the modern goldfish?
Hello, it's a goldfish lifestyle magazine. You haven't seen copies of it in my bathroom?
Yeah, I don't go into your bathroom. I was in there 6 months ago and I'm still in therapy.
What a snowflake. So, the Modern Goldfish is doing a profile on me, and I got my Rolex, my bespoke suit, and now I just need a nice close shave.
What does any of this have to do with me?
Well, I need $2,000 for disposable razors.
$2,000 for razors?
Razors are expensive, and Gertie also needs a shave. I'm not using her razors again. You ever try to shave your face after your wife uses your razor for her legs?
Gertie
Well, yeah,
is
the razor gets
fish's,
dull.
Well,
wife.
imagine your wife's legs were the size of a camel.
Gertie is also
I don't want to
a
imagine
camel.
Well, I used one of Gertie's razors, and I thought I was going to
I
rip
don't know
one of
why.
my gills off. I don't want to damage my moneymaker.
God forbid. Look, you don't need any of those disposable razors. Just try Henson Shaving.
Oh, is that today's sponsor?
It sure is. Henson Shaving is a family-run aerospace business that makes a precision quality safety razor. The Henson AL13 has a cost of ownership that's way less than disposable or electric razors. It's completely plastic-free, and the replacement blades cost about 10 cents each, so you can always have a safe, close shave.
Ooh, this sounds fantastic.
It is, and there aren't any subscription programs or monthly deliveries, just a solid, long-lasting, dependable razor. Click the link in the description to get your very own Henson AL13 and use the code THEY-FILES to get 100 free blades with your order. That'll give you 3 to 5 years worth of shaves.
Okay, I'm on it, but look, I'm still going to need those pantyhose.
I know I'm gonna regret asking this, but why do you need a pair of pantyhose?
2 pairs.
Why do you need them?
Well, why do you think? After Gertie shaves her legs, she gets cold. Have you ever seen chicken skin on a camel's legs? It ain't pretty. So tell your wife to make with the pantyhose toot sweet. What is it, baby? What is it? Hang on, I'll ask. Hey, so, she wants you to make sure they're fishnets.
Blink.
In 1908, President Teddy Roosevelt wanted to declare the Grand Canyon off limits to all timber and mining operations. It would take another 11 years for Congress to designate the Grand Canyon a national park. Sensing a final opportunity for adventure, explorer G.E. Kincaid took a boat down the Colorado River and through the Grand Canyon. The canyon was rich in minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and Kincaid wanted to see what he could find before the area was closed off for good. About 40 miles upriver from the El Tovar Crystal Canyon, Kincaid saw stains in the sediment formation about 2,000 feet up. He tied off the boat and got out to investigate. Kincaid couldn't find a trail, but after a short hike, he found something interesting covered in desert brush. Steps, hundreds of them, carved in sandstone, steps that wound their way up to a high shelf on the side of the canyon. He followed the steps until he came across a cavern entrance, an entrance that was clearly man-made. Kincaid entered the cavern and turned on his flashlight. On the walls, he saw writing, but it wasn't English or Native American writing. It was ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Kincaid lifted his flashlight and saw that the tunnel ran far into the distance. He didn't realize it at the time, but this was only the beginning. When G.E. Kincaid tied off his small wooden boat to investigate the strange coloration of the rock wall, he was hoping to find clues that would lead him to a mineral deposit. He wasn't expecting to find hieroglyphics. When Kincaid noticed chisel marks in the walls, he drew his pistol, turned on another light, and slowly walked deeper into the gloom. He kept detailed notes of everything he saw.
The main passageway is about 12 feet wide, narrowing to 9 feet toward the farther end. About 57 feet from the entrance, the first side passages branch off to the right and left, along which on both sides are a number of rooms about the size of ordinary living rooms of today, though some are 30 by 40 feet square. These are entered by oval-shaped doors and are ventilated by round air spaces through the walls into the passages. The walls are about 3 feet 6 inches in thickness. The passages are chiseled or hewn as straight as could be laid out by an engineer. The ceilings of many of the rooms converge to a center. The side passages near the entrance run at a sharp angle from the main hall, but toward the rear they gradually reach a right angle in direction.
G.E. Kincaid now realized he was in a huge complex. He estimated that as many as 50,000 people could have lived here. In some rooms he found granaries with shelves of glazed pottery, many of which still contained seeds. He found cooking areas and a huge dining hall. The rooms were full of ancient artifacts. Kincaid carefully wrapped a few small metal and ceramic objects for later study. Another large room Kincaid described as an area for metalwork, a technology that should not have existed in this area.
Here are found tools of all descriptions made of copper. These people undoubtedly knew the lost art of hardening this metal, which has been sought by chemicals for centuries without result. On a bench running around the workroom was some charcoal and other material probably used in the process. There's also slag and stuff similar to mat, showing that these ancients smelted ores, but so far no trace of where or how this was done has been discovered, nor the origin of the ore.
G.E. Kincaid explored the underground complex for several hours, still having no idea when this place was used, what it was used for, or who the builders were. Then he came across another large room, a crypt. The crypt had shelf upon shelf and row upon row of mummies, dozens of them. At this point, G.E. Kincaid realized that if he was going to explore this entire underground city, he was going to need help. G.E. Kincaid sent a few artifacts to the Smithsonian along with his notes of what he found. He requested financial and logistical support for what he felt was the most significant archaeological discovery ever made. The Smithsonian agreed. A few weeks later, Professor S.A. Jordan...
Did you guys know that we pay for the Smithsonian? That's what we do. We pay for that. That comes in handy later.
Arrived with a team of about 40 scientists, researchers, and laborers to excavate and explore the ancient underground city. Now with more lights and manpower, the scientists realized that the cave system layout wasn't random. It was a symmetrical, deliberate design. The tunnels all led to a central chamber. In the chamber was a large statue of what Kincaid thought looked like Buddha.
Like butter.
Buddha.
What'd I say?
Over 100 feet from the entrance is the cross hall, several hundred feet long, in which are found the idol or image of the people's god sitting cross-legged with a lotus flower or lily in each hand. The cast of this face is Oriental, and the carving in this cavern. The idol almost resembles Buddha, though the scientists are not certain as to what religious worship it represents. Taking into consideration everything found thus far, it is possible that this worship most resembles the ancient people of Tibet.
No, I didn't think we were allowed to say Oriental. Are we bringing that back?
We're not. This was written over 100 years ago. So
Oh, right, when we had freedom of speech.
no, Oriental in this context
Base,
just means Eastern.
fish.
Because of this discovery, Kincaid's team started calling the complex the Citadel. The crypt was one of the bigger rooms discovered. Now, with enough light, Kincaid was able to fully describe what he saw.
The walls slant back at an angle of about 35 degrees. On these are tiers of mummies, each one occupying a separate hewn shelf. At the head of each is a small bench, on which is found copper cups and pieces of broken swords. Some of the mummies are covered with clay, and all are wrapped in a bark fabric. The urns or cups on the lower tiers are crude, while as the higher shelves are reached, the urns are finer in design, showing a later stage of civilization. It is worthy of note that all the mummies examined so far have proved to be male, no children or females being buried here. This leads to the belief that this exterior section was the warriors' barracks.
Kincaid, Jordan, and the Smithsonian team explored the entire cave complex. They were overwhelmed with evidence that this was not some faraway temple occupied by a few priests. This was a huge city lived in by thousands of men, women, and children for hundreds or possibly thousands of years. The question nobody could answer was, who were they? By the end of the expedition, G.E. Kincaid and Professor Jordan's team had discovered hundreds of rooms, barracks, granaries, metalworking shops, temples, and many, many living quarters. Though most of the rooms were empty, thousands of artifacts were found. They found swords and shields made of copper, bronze, and a gray metal that scientists couldn't identify. They thought it looked like platinum. They found pottery, urns, utensils for cooking, small yellow stones called cat's eyes, and large stone tablets, all engraved with hieroglyphics.
On all the urns or walls over doorways and tablets of stone which were found by the image are the mysterious hieroglyphics, the key to which the Smithsonian Institute hopes yet to discover. The engraving on the tablets probably has something to do with the religion of the people. Similar hieroglyphics have been found in southern Arizona. Among the pictorial writings, only 2 animals are found. One is of prehistoric type.
Even with all the relics and all the writing Kincaid and Jordan found, they were still no closer to determining who built the citadel in the Grand Canyon. They thought some of the statues looked Tibetan, but they weren't quite right. They thought the writing looked Egyptian. Again, that wasn't quite right. There were experts on site, none of whom could identify the statues or translate any of the text. But there were 2 things that the researchers could agree on. One, the civilization that built the citadel was very advanced, far more advanced than the native tribes that occupied the area for a few thousand years. This now lost civilization worked bronze many years before the Bronze Age began. They understood division of labor and agriculture when every other society on Earth was presumably still hunting and gathering. These are discoveries that went against everything that was taught in mainstream archaeology and anthropology. A civilization like this shouldn't exist.
Oh, what was the second thing?
What?
Well, you said the eggheads agreed on 2 things. What was the second thing?
Right. They agreed that the civilization that built the citadel in the Grand Canyon didn't emerge there locally. This civilization arrived there from the other side of the world.
That's just weird. 'cause,
Kincaid and Professor Jordan sent boxes.
You know, I've never heard of the Smithsonian having teams of researchers, you know, that would just go out and just, you know, study apparently off the rip, you know. Never heard of that. Anyway, gonna put that one out there too. I've never heard of the Smithsonian. They always have people that are local that, you know, they want, you know, in-house to take care of the stuff that they already have.
Of artifacts and books full of notes and drawings back to the Smithsonian, along with their hypothesis that an ancient civilization existed in the Grand Canyon thousands of years before Native Americans arrived in North America. These people were technologically advanced, educated, skilled, and spiritually complex. And these people originated somehow in Egypt or Asia. Kincaid wanted more resources and a larger team to help them research the Citadel and search the Grand Canyon for more evidence of this lost civilization. Their request was denied, and G.E. Kincaid and Professor S.A. Jordan were never heard from again.
Son of a
In northern Arizona is one of the most spectacular natural wonders on Earth, the Grand Canyon. Carved over millions of years by the Colorado River, the Grand Canyon is more than just a pretty landscape and a spot for tourists to take selfies. It's a place of deep spiritual significance for the people who've lived in the area. The Hopi, Navajo, Zuni, Apache, and several other tribes have lived around the Grand Canyon for several thousand years. They still do. Hopi mythology says that from the Grand Canyon, the first people of the world entered. The story says that many thousands of years ago, a reptilian race emerged.
lizard people!
Yep.
Hey, how many times do lizard people have to come up in these stories before you believe in them?
I guess I'm gonna need a few more.
Lizard people are gonna keep popping up, you'll see.
Thousands of years ago, a reptilian race, lizard people emerged from the Grand Canyon and changed into humans.
Lizard people are shapeshifters.
That would seem to be true. Other Pueblo cultures like the Zuni and the Acoma have similar legends that there were people there before the tribes.
Lizard people legends?
Well, some legends say reptilians were there. Other legends say a race of giants were there.
Ooh!
And there are rumors that skeletons of giants have been discovered all over the western United States, but the evidence has been suppressed.
Suppressed by, of course, Smithsonian. They actually have... There's a group of people that they managed to get some video evidence and some picture evidence of, a closet that just, it holds skulls that are giant. They're fucking huge, and they're not, the Gigantopithecus that they've found. That's an offshoot of. A great, a giant ape. A great ape. Anyway.
The Smithsonian.
Of course.
Something I've learned from doing the show is that all myths and legends do carry a little bit of truth. We already have evidence that people landed in North America before Columbus. The Vikings famously explored and settled parts of Newfoundland 500 years before the quote-unquote New World was quote-unquote discovered. And there's growing evidence that ancient Chinese explorers landed in North and South America before the Vikings. But landing on the east or west coast of America is one thing. Getting to the Grand Canyon is a whole other thing. How could people get there? And even if they could, how did they have the technology to excavate millions of tons of rock in order to build an entire underground city? Well, we may have known the answer to that question for 1,000 years. Traveling from Europe and Asia to America thousands of years ago was almost impossible. Almost. Many brave people did it. But traveling to the Grand Canyon is a much more difficult task.
Something like 100 years to finally recognize the proof that there are Viking settlements on the east coast of the United States and in Canada. It took them 100 years to finally go, oh yeah, okay, so it, that is a Viking, that is, there were entire towns that were built, and not just one. I mean, they found one that was like kind of like the poster child of why they have, this piece of evidence. But there's something like 14 of them, all up and down the East Coast. Mostly in the northeast, where the Vikings, they flourished, they thrived. But it's so long ago that these settlements are so fucking degraded. Exactly, real goat herders. So much area was covered by these people. It was insane. There's even if you've ever played what is it, Red Dead Redemption 2? There's even a side quest where you find an authentic Viking settlement, and it's on the west coast of, that's where the Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place, is over here on the west coast. And that's, That's a side mission. You find a Viking settlement. You wear a Viking. You get a piece of Viking armor. You get the helmet, and you can wear it in the game.
Than landing on a California beach. To get to and build in the Grand Canyon requires technology. The Hopi have a very intriguing legend about the ant people. These are humanoid creatures that are smaller than humans with pale skin and large eyes like an insect.
Aliens.
According to legend, a series of cataclysms hit the earth many thousands of years ago.
Young Adrias.
The Hopi were on the verge of being destroyed. A sky god
adjust my
emerged
camera.
from what they called a moving star.
UFO.
The sky god brought the Hopi
I will adjust my camera after this. Hi, Susie.
to the ant people who
Hi, Susie. We're watching the Y-Files. I don't know if you're familiar with the Y-Files and Hecklefish. It's funny, but it's also like, you know, conspiracy type shit. Really good shit. Stay tuned.
escorted them to underground caves for protection. The sky god then got back into his moving star and flew off above the clouds. The Piot have a legend about the Havmusuvs. They're usually described as being humanoid in shape with golden skin and large eyes.
Aliens.
They lived in a vast underground city and traded with faraway people. They possessed weapons that the Piot described as silver tubes that shot
Paiute,
lightning
but okay.
and can kill a man instantly.
Bases.
And the most interesting part of the Havmusuv legend, they supposedly flew silver canoes in the sky.
UFOs.
These craft made a humming sound and could maneuver like an eagle and move at great speeds. Most ancient cultures have a flood myth. They describe a global disaster that melted the ice caps and caused sea level to rise 400 feet. Entire cities
The
were wiped
Younger
out,
Dryas
maybe even
period.
entire continents.
Atlantis.
Most of these flood myths also talk about how, after the waters receded, a godlike people came down from the sky. These gods gave humans the gift of civilization and taught them things they had forgotten before the Great Flood. Things like writing, astronomy, and agriculture. Could the city in the Grand Canyon be evidence of this time in history? And if it is, why would anyone want to suppress it?
And
All the
that's
information
crux
in
of what
today's
he's getting
episode
at.
comes from
So the thing about the Smithsonian is they will not, you know, they won't go back and say that they were wrong, because then they have to admit that at one point in time they were wrong. And these people at the Smithsonian are so far up their own ass that they're just huffing their farts on a daily, hourly basis. So for them to say like, oh yeah, you know, we were wrong about this, you know, this thing that we swore up and down is the truth 100 years ago, it takes a lot for them to do that. And they won't ever say that they were wrong. They're so far up their own asses. Hell yeah, familiar. I did the same thing. I binged watched every single Y-Files.
2 front-page articles from the Phoenix Gazette published in 1909. In the years since, mainstream researchers have decided that the articles were a hoax, a fantastic story designed to sell newspapers.
This is the part where he
19th century
debunks
clickbait.
the
Yep.
story.
The media hasn't changed much.
Unfortunately, that's true. But many people believe the story is real, and the Smithsonian is covering it up.
Smithsonian Public Relations, Marion speaking.
Hold on. Hello?
Hello?
I'm here. Sorry, I was on hold a long time.
How can I help you?
They transferred me to Marion.
Yes, this is Marion.
Okay, great. My name is AJ, and I'm with the Y-Files. We're a YouTube channel that covers mysteries.
Did you say you're from YouTube?
The Y-Files is a channel on YouTube, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to talk to you about an article that was in the Phoenix, Arizona Gazette in 1909, and they sent me to you. I was hoping to ask you a couple of questions about that.
Okay, let me stop you. No Egyptian artifacts of any kind have ever been found in North or South America.
Sounds like you've given that speech before.
Yes, I get this call a couple of times a year. I can tell you that the Smithsonian has never been involved in anything like this in the Grand Canyon or anywhere.
So, G.E. Kincaid,
No record of anyone by that name ever working for the Smithsonian. The whole thing is a hoax.
Yeah, that's the prevailing belief, but the Smithsonian has been accused of covering this up, so
Yeah, I don't have a response to that.
you probably don't want to talk about giants or giant skeletons, huh?
And goodbye.
That's the official story. Kincaid's cave is a hoax, so no reason to try and find it. Nothing
And that
to
was
see
a
here.
skit that he
Even
did.
Kincaid
That
himself
wasn't-
wanted to keep people out.
He
First,
can't
I would
legally do
impress
that,
the
by the
cavern
way.
is
He can't he can't record, someone from the Smithsonian, even though you pay for them. Everybody who's watching, by the way, you pay for the Smithsonian. You can't just call them and record them on that. Legally speaking.
Is a hoax, so no reason to try and find it. Nothing to see here. Even Kincaid himself wanted to keep people out.
First, I would impress that the cavern is nearly inaccessible. The entrance is 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall. It is located on government land, and no visitor will be allowed there under penalty of trespass. The scientists wish to work unmolested, without fear of archaeological discoveries being disturbed by curio or relic hunters. A trip there would be fruitless, and the visitor would be sent on his way.
Whether at the request of the Smithsonian or just to protect his find, it was clear that Kincaid wanted to dissuade people from finding the citadel. But even over 100 years later, that wouldn't stop people from trying. And some of those people, they say they found it. Jerry Wills and his wife Kathy have been studying the Kincaid Cave mystery for years. Their approach was find the original base camp of the explorers, which would lead them to the cave. After years of research and exploring the area where G.E. Kincaid said he found the cave, Jerry and Kathy found a location covered in artifacts from that time. And on the canyon wall just below this area, they believe is the entrance to the underground city. Exploring is difficult though. The entire area where the cave is supposed to be is designated off limits by the federal government.
Yo, I saw that coming.
About 1,000 caves have been discovered in the Grand Canyon, many of them man-made, but only about 30 have been mapped, and many of those have been sealed.
Ooh, I close them off.
Oh, for your safety.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I don't buy the safety excuse either. There are plenty of people who'd be willing to take the risk, and they'd be willing to sign a waiver that says the government isn't responsible if something happens. In fact, people have tried this. The government still says no, it's too dangerous.
How nice of the government to look out for us.
No, DC
Isn't that
is
nice?
not.
Then why is it legal to jump out of a plane or
DC
ride a roller coaster or drive a
DC
car?
is
Some things in
a
life are
two-party-
dangerous.
It's not
but
even
they're
a
still
state,
worth doing.
but
Some other caves in the
it's hard
Grand
to
Canyon
explain.
have been
Susie.
blocked by
Oh, wait,
steel gates.
you know this,
They say
Susie.
this is to protect the bat population.
Susie, you should know this better than I do. DC is not a state, so they do whatever they want in DC because it's not a state. It's pretty much the federal government's fucking it's like a slush fund, but reality. Yeah, it's two-party. Yeah. Anyway.
Whoa, did you say bats? We have to protect the bats?
That's what they say.
Well, haven't bats caused enough problems these last few years? Allegedly.
Still, people are willing to risk a fine or imprisonment to find the lost city in the Grand Canyon. But anyone who goes looking should expect a response. When Jerry and Kathy's team tried to explore the area, suddenly an unmarked plane appeared. Clearly, they were being watched. Despite this part of the Grand Canyon being a no-fly zone, and the fact that no aircraft is allowed to fly below the rim, a plane appeared. Jerry Wills is convinced this was a warning. His team was unable to continue their expedition. Exploring the cave from above is almost impossible. But what about exploring it from below, as G.E. Kincaid did? Another group of explorers tried this. As they approached the location, a black helicopter showed up. Not a tourist helicopter, not even a black civilian helicopter, an Apache combat helicopter. When this team explored the area above, looking for the ventilation shafts Kincaid wrote about, and possibly a way down, they found cement blocks in the middle of nowhere. Some of these blocks are platforms near the edge of the rim with hardware and anchors that would be used to assist mountaineers. When asked about this, the authorities say these are reinforcing structures to prevent rock falls. Also in this forbidden zone, rock formations have unusual names. There's Isis Temple, Tower of Set, Horus, the Cheops Pyramid, and Ra. There's also the Manu Temple, the Buddha Temple, the Krishna Temple, and the Shiva Temple, and many more names that refer to ancient Egyptian and Hindu cultures.
Yeah, so these names were done by, you know, the scientists who are really into those things, and they'll often do that. They'll often name these things, you know, oh well, this is, you know, the grand whatever temple of Set and whatever. Fuck, scientists are nerds. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm sorry to break this information to you, but you know, there's some nerds that even, you know, they incorporate their little shit. Wow, imagine that. Into what they do, what they work on. Anyway.
Cultures that specifically have myths about a god helping civilization after the Great Flood. The official word is, the fact that these names exist within the Grand Canyon's no-go zone is a coincidence. But I don't really believe in those. Do you? David Hatcher Childress is a French author who's published 200 books. He often covers ancient mysteries. He believes the United States government is actively suppressing archaeological discoveries.
They are.
He mentions that while the film Raiders of the Lost Ark is fiction, the final scene showing the warehouse is close to reality. That the Smithsonian, an independent federal agency, is hiding some of the most important discoveries made in the Americas.
They are.
He says the cover-up began in 1881 with famous geologist John Wesley Powell. Powell appointed Cyrus Thomas the director of the Eastern Mound Division of the Smithsonian Institution's Bureau of Ethnology. When Thomas came to the Smithsonian, he believed there was a race of mound builders that were distinct from and arrived before the American Indians. This school of thought is called diffusionism, which says throughout history, there's been a widespread dispersion of culture and civilization.
He's loading up and ranting. Well, here, let me grab something for you. Well, if you hit this link right here, Ko-fi.com/goofyboots, you can go ahead and you can rant over there. All right. Back at it.
Civilization, even across great distances. He believed there was a race of mound builders that were distinct from and arrived before the American Indians. This school of thought is called diffusionism, which says throughout history, there's been a widespread dispersion of culture and civilization, even across great distances. The Smithsonian took the opposite approach. It promoted isolationism, which says most civilizations are isolated from each other and have little contact, especially when separated by large bodies of water. It was held that the advanced and highly populated civilizations of the Ohio and Mississippi valleys were rare, and that they didn't have contact with other advanced cultures like the Aztecs, the Toltecs, or the Maya. But the Mississippi River runs from Canada all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. To say these cultures were isolated is like saying that people in the Black Sea had no contact with people in the Mediterranean. That's ridiculous. When ancient mounds of the American Midwest are examined, they show the existence of a complex culture, cities larger than those in Europe at the time. They also show burials of extremely tall people, sometimes 7 or 8 feet tall. When the Spiro mounds were excavated in the 1930s, 7 and 8 foot tall skeletons were found, at a time when the average height of a human male was about 5'6". Those skeletons have been lost. In 1892, stone coffins were discovered in Alabama by Frank Burns during a geological survey. The coffins were about 7.5 feet long, hollowed out by fire and metal chisels. The findings were sent to the Smithsonian. In 1984, this report was found by researcher Frederick J. Pohl. He asked the Smithsonian about this. They said, "We have not been able to find the specimens in our collections, though records show that they were received."
Well, how do you lose giant stone coffins?
That weighed several tons? I don't know.
And never underestimate the incompetence of the federal government.
8 years later, the Smithsonian said they
Amen.
found the coffins, but they were stored in
Amen.
a warehouse that was contaminated by asbestos, so nobody could go in there to see them.
Amen, hecklefish. All right, let me open up my Gonna open it. Open up, open up, open up. I got my first Kofi. Big B Trucker for $5. Big Smithsonian cover up. Hashtag big Smithsonian cover up. Thank you so much, Big B Trucker. Why didn't the... Oh, it's because I didn't integrate my widget. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and integrate my widget into the stream so that if anybody wants to donate through my Ko-fi, which, by the way, I would really like it if everybody would donate through the Ko-fi rather than Rumble, mainly because Ko-fi only takes $4.95. So Big B, you just covered the monthly fee for Ko-fi. Coffee.com, whatever. You just covered it. Yes, Big B, you are the first to donate through my Ko-fi link. I've been putting it in the description for a month now. But Rumble takes 30%, which I'm not gonna, hey, that's cool. Thanks, Rumble, for making Rumble Studio, giving us some ad reads. Really nice. I appreciate that a lot. But you're taking a little bit much. Don't worry about it, Susie. You being here is perfectly fine because I just need some people to listen to my ad reads. So Susie is here. Thank you, Susie, for being here.
During World War II, a crew was building an airship in Alaska. They
Thank
excavated
you again,
a
Big
mound
B
that
Trucker.
had gigantic human remains.
He's loaded up
Skeletons
in
twice
trucking.
or 3 times the size of a normal human. This report has been confirmed by
That's
multiple
what I gotta
sources.
do for Big B.
The Smithsonian collected the
I'm gonna write that
findings,
down.
and that was the last anyone heard about it. There are stories like this from Alaska all the way down to Mexico City. An amazing discovery is made, the Smithsonian steps in, the story disappears. The saying, "skeletons in your closet," means you have secrets you don't want revealed.
Later with Rome. Did Big B give you your first Big D? Yes. Yes, he did. Oh, is it lunchtime, Boo Boo? Oh, okay. Give me a minute. I'm gonna come down. You want some chicken nuggets? I don't know if we have any more taquitos. Oh, we got some more taquitos. All right, man. I'll make you up some taquitos. Okay, buddy. Okay. Little boy's hungry. Okay. That was very funny, Apple Eater. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do another sound drop for Big B. It's gonna be the "I'm loading up and trucking." I'm gonna do that one. What accent? My accent? Anyway, I gotta go make some lunch for the boy. I'm going to leave you with AJ and Hecklefish for a minute. Where's scene? Taquitos? You like it when I say taquitos? My son's half Mexican. Well, Big B, I mean, if Susie's gonna have this drop, and Cookie has... Where's Cookie's drop? Cookie hasn't even typed in chat, but I know she listens. Where's the drop? Damn it. Where's the drop? Alright, I'm gonna have to do this manually before I have to do this. I'm fucking compelled to do this. I need to do it. Where's the Cookie drop? Where's Cookie? What the fuck? Where is Cookie? Son of a bitch. I put it somewhere. No, Susie, I'm gonna do it. He can wait. He's 10. He should be able to put taquitos in the fucking microwave anyway. I'm not gonna make him put them in the oven. No, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pull this up. I know I made it. Live stream. Source material. Here it is.
Cookie? Cookie? Cookie?
Okay. Now I can go. Alright. Such an autist. Cookie, that's for you if you're listening. Alright. Go watch AJ and Hecklefish.
Secrets that, if discovered, would be embarrassing and possibly dangerous. In the case of the Smithsonian, skeletons in the closet could be taken literally, but the government literally has evidence that an advanced race was in North America long before the native tribes arrived, evidence they don't want revealed. Mainstream science says this is nonsense, but the Hopi and other Grand Canyon tribes do believe this. The Hopi say that when the first people emerged from the Grand Canyon, they sent a message to the Temple of the Sun asking for a blessing of peace. That messenger hasn't returned. But even today in Hopi villages, at sundown, tribal elders can be seen on rooftops, gazing toward the setting sun, waiting for the messenger to come home. And when he does, the ancient land will be returned to the first people. Now that's an optimistic belief. The United States spent 200 years taking land from the first people. You really think they're going to give it back?
3 + 1 5 + 0 0.
Okay, I admit that the story does sound far-fetched, but it is true that there is a no-fly zone over that part of the Grand Canyon. And even in the public areas, you can't fly beneath the rim of the canyon. But when people go searching for the cave, unmarked planes show up almost immediately in the no-fly zone below the rim.
Below the rim.
Don't be an infant. Next up is the Hollow Earth theory and the story of Agartha. Agartha is a hidden city inside the Earth. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but they ended up there after losing a war with Atlantis. This is a good one. Cultures around the world have myths that speak of a mysterious underground kingdom that exists deep within the earth, hidden away from the primitive and violent surface dwellers, which is us. Picture a society untouched by time, unscathed by war, and unaffected by natural disasters. A culture thriving in the vast open spaces inside the earth. Throughout history, many have looked for physical evidence of its existence, tempted by stories of a peaceful but powerful subterranean civilization with advanced technology and ancient knowledge long forgotten by modern man. This is the story of the underground kingdom of Agartha, and the explorers who've said that not only is it a real place, but they know where it is. Stories of a hollow earth have existed in cultures for thousands of years. Nearly every ancient society has stories about an underground realm, often inhabited by superior beings. Buddhists firmly believe in the subterranean kingdom of Agartha, ruled by the mysterious King of the World.
Ooh, Leonardo DiCaprio?
No. Agartha is said to be home to millions and connected to the surface by a vast tunnel network within the planet's crust. Indian religions speak of a place called Patala, which translates to that which is below the feet. Patala is described as a beautiful land full of rolling green hills and crystal clear lakes. Agartha is described the same way. Some believe this is the real Garden of Eden, that when God cast Adam and Eve out of the garden, he actually sent them to the surface. In an ancient Mayan text called the Popol Vuh, there is the story of Xibalba, an underworld civilization. And from Xibalba, twin brothers emerge, and like Adam and Eve, they became the first people above ground. Chico is the place where the Aztecs emerged to live on the surface of the earth. It translates to 7 caves, and researchers are actually looking for it, and some think they found it. African and other Native American legends also mention subterranean realms and cavern spirits. The most consistent story is that of an advanced inner Earth civilization, isolated from surface humanity. The Sumerians knew it as Kur, a void space or home of the dead. The Babylonians called it Urkala, another world ruled by gods. The Chinese call this underworld Diyu, and the Japanese call it Yomi. Ancient Egypt, Islam, Greek, Rome, even Celtic Irish. They all have myths of an underground world. More modern myths may call this place hell, but it could be argued that hell is a relatively new concept, that it's a construct designed to create fear and inspire good behavior. But before the concept of hell, the underworld was inhabited by advanced, godlike people who came to the surface of the earth. Once on the surface, they either created humanity or taught civilization to primitive humans. It's easy enough to interpret those as the same thing. And like the flood myth, which is present in every ancient culture, the inner earth story also appears over and over again. Recent discoveries are starting to point to the fact that a great flood did really happen. So when cultures from all over the world share the same myth, we have to start looking at all those myths as maybe more than just a story. Those myths may be referring to actual history. But to prove the existence of Agartha, an underground civilization, and the Hollow Earth, we'll need more than stories. We need scientific evidence and eyewitness testimony. Fortunately, we have both. The Hollow Earth theory proposes that our planet is not a solid sphere, but a hollow one, with vast unexplored spaces within. In 1692, astronomer Edmund Halley proposed a hollow Earth consisting of a shell about 500 miles thick. Within that shell are 2 concentric spheres and a central core about the diameter of Venus. Halley said the spaces in between the shells could support life, with light provided by a luminous atmosphere. In the late 18th century, mathematician Leonard Euler used physics calculations to hypothesize a hollow Earth with a central sun. Euler's calculations suggested that gravity would propel matter equally in all directions, forming spheres with hollow interiors.
Wait. How can the Earth be hollow and flat at the same time?
Well, the Earth isn't flat.
Planes always fly in a straight line. If the Earth was round, they would have to adjust for that.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, speaking of planes, if the Earth was a spinning ball, you'd be able to fly a helicopter straight up in the air, wait for the ball to spin, and then land on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, the atmosphere spins too.
The air.
Yeah.
Right. How fast does the Earth spin?
Well, that depends on the latitude.
How fast?
Between 300 and 1,000 miles an hour.
Okay, so empty air sticks to the ground, moving at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yep.
In perfect sync, everywhere on a big round ball.
Yes.
Agree to disagree.
But what does modern science have to say about the hollow Earth? On the surface, the hollow Earth theory seems to defy basic geological understanding. Seismic data and the study of Earth's gravitational field suggest that our planet is composed of several layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. However, proponents of the hollow Earth theory argue that the data are open to interpretation. They point to anomalies in seismic readings, which they claim could be indicative of large empty spaces within the Earth. They also cite the existence of vast underground caves as evidence of the Earth's hollowness. And if the Earth is hollow, it could support the large population of Agartha. Even if the Earth isn't completely hollow, if there are vast hollow areas within the Earth, why couldn't they house a hidden civilization? Some trace the story of Agartha back to ancient Buddhist texts, where it's described as a paradise, a place of pure harmony and advanced knowledge. In the Western world, what we know about Agartha mostly comes from Alexandre Centeve Delvedre. He was a French intellectual and occultist. He spoke of Agartha as a secret civilization, its people possessing wisdom and technology far beyond our understanding. Santiv learned of Agartha through his Sanskrit teacher, who insisted it was a real geographic place. Santiv's descriptions of Agartha were vivid and detailed. He spoke of grand palaces illuminated by magical light and of advanced technologies that harnessed the Earth's magnetic field. In the 19th century, Agarthans already had citywide lighting, railways, and even air travel. Santivs believed that the Agarthans were the guardians of sacred knowledge, a knowledge that can bring about a golden age of peace and enlightenment on the surface world. Others would continue the search for Agartha. Occultist Elena Blavatsky searched for evidence of a hollow Earth and the secret tunnels that Agarthans used to travel all over the planet. But as far as we know, Santiv and Madame Blavatsky didn't find Agartha. But not because it doesn't exist, because they didn't know where to look. But we do. The reason Edmund Halley started exploring the idea that the Earth was hollow was because of strange compass readings in the Atlantic. He believed that the aurora borealis resulted from gases escaping from the inner spheres inside the Earth. This suggested there were entrances at the North and South Pole, and once inside, you can navigate the inner shells through vast cave and tunnel systems. The hollow Earth theory fell out of favor for a while, but gained new life in 1818. American John Sims launched the notorious Sims hole theory. He declared that the Earth was hollow and habitable. He said the inner Earth is comprised of 4 nested shells with openings at the poles. And Sims dedicated much of his life to promoting this theory by trying to put together a polar expedition, though that never happened. In 1829, Norwegian fisherman Olaf Jansen claimed that he and his father sailed through a polar opening and into the planet's interior. There they spent 2 years among a race of giants before exiting through the South Pole. His story is documented in the book The Smoky God by Willis George Emerson, which is a fun read. But probably the most famous and detailed account of the world inside the Earth comes from Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Admiral Byrd was an aviation pioneer, polar explorer, and one of the most decorated and celebrated officers in the history of the American military, so a serious guy. Byrd took his plane out on a quick survey mission of the North Pole. As he was flying over ice and snow, he noticed the sunlight changed. Then it got warmer. A few minutes later, he was flying over fields of green grass and forests and rivers. He even saw a woolly mammoth grazing in one of those fields. Then he no longer had control of his plane, and suddenly 2 craft came up beside him.
Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type.
Admiral Byrd lands and is escorted by tall blonde men to an underground city. There, the Admiral meets someone called the Master. Now, I linked to an episode where I go into a lot of detail about what Admiral Byrd found, so check that out if you want to learn more. I'll try not to spoil too much here.
Right.
So Admiral Byrd found a way to the hollow Earth in the North Pole. Others have found their way in through the South Pole. The South Pole is often connected to Nazi Germany. Hitler was an occultist and was famously fascinated by the possibility that the hollow Earth could be accessed through Antarctica.
That's right.
Germany did make an expedition to Antarctica in 1938. I theorized in the Operation High Jump episode that this was the reason the United States sent such a large, well-armed task force down there in 1946. The Germans had maps of the area, including a cave system underneath the surface. They even had step-by-step directions on how to get into the hollow Earth. The directions are very specific. Distances right down to the meter. After you follow the first 8 steps, the 9th step is interesting.
Proceed to Agartha, full speed. Process straight ahead until the new light can be seen. Change of magnetic poles, the changes of the compass needle and instruments are to be disregarded.
German U-boat 209, commanded by Heinrich Rode, said he reached the interior of the Earth and found a vast network of tunnels. There are rumors that, after Germany surrendered, some Nazis fled to Antarctica and hid in these tunnels. And other rumors say they're still there. But the poles aren't the only way to get into the cave system that leads to Agartha. There are entrances all over the world. And chances are, there's one near you.
No, Apple Eater. The world is not a donut. The world is a vampire.
The planetary grid system is a network of energy lines crisscrossing the planet. These lines are said to influence everything from ancient monument placement to the patterns of animal migration. The idea of a planetary grid goes back to the ancient Greeks, who believed in a concept called amphelos, the Earth's central point. And you can see this concept expressed in places like the Oracle at Delphi, said to be the center of the ancient world. A few centuries later, in the 1920s, Alfred Watkins noticed that ancient sites seemed to line up along straight paths. He termed these ley lines, and while some considered his theory a coincidence, others saw a pattern connected to the Earth's geography. More recently, the unified vector geometry theory was proposed by Buckminster Fuller and later developed by scientists like William Becker and Beth Higgins. According to this theory, the Earth is covered by an invisible grid formed by 120 identical triangles. This grid supposedly aligns with significant geographical and historical points across the globe. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. According to the unified vector geometry theory, it isn't randomly placed, but occupies a crucial point on this global energy grid. The same applies to other ancient landmarks like Stonehenge and Machu Picchu, the Nazca Lines, and even the Bermuda Triangle. In addition to the North and South Poles,
God bless you.
entrances to the Kingdom of Agartha are also found on some of these planetary grid points. Let's take a quick trip around the world and look for a way in. The first way into the Hollow Earth is in the caves of Diros in Greece. This entrance is closely connected to Plato and the story of Atlantis. From Greece across the Mediterranean to Mount Epimeo in Italy. For centuries, this has been called a portal to the inner Earth. Now going south across the Mediterranean is the Pyramid of Giza. Giza doesn't seem like it would have access to the Hollow Earth, but we now know that underneath the pyramids is a vast cave system, underground rivers, reservoirs, and tunnels. With modern technology like ground-penetrating radar, new caverns and chambers are discovered all the time. Another entrance to the Earth is said to be within King Solomon's mines. Solomon, a king of Israel and son of King David, was known for his wisdom, power, and his personal fortune, described as one of the largest on Earth. King Solomon's mines became known to the world because of the famous novel featuring the character Alan Quatermain, an adventurer you might remember from the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Quatermain was played by Sean Connery.
Oh, great. Now YouTube's gonna fucking... God damn it.
Underrated movie.
Yeah, I think so too. Wealth is usually associated with gold, but King Solomon's wealth is thought to have come from the mining of copper. And these mines would have been operating around the 13th century BC. Now, even though the legend of King Solomon's mines comes from a fictional novel,
every single
treasure hunters
time
believe this is a real place and have been searching for it for a long time. In 2008, there might have been a breakthrough. An ancient mining city was discovered in Khirbat el Nahas in Jordan. There, archaeologists discovered a copper mine and a copper smelting camp, which seemed to be operational in the 13th century BC. The team also found a lot of personal items, including clothing, ceramics, fabric, even tools, all indicating a highly developed long-term settlement at the site.
That was a good movie. I
And these objects
liked
have been
it.
dated to the same
I think it
period
was still
as King
underrated.
Solomon's mines.
It was like the last movie that
The next entrance is
Sean
said to be in
Connery
Rama,
worked
India,
on.
where an ancient subterranean city was recently discovered. Tibet is home to many stories about Hollow Earth, so it's not surprising that there are entrances underneath the Himalayas. One of these is in the underground city of Shonshe, which, according to legend, has been guarded by monks for thousands of years. But there are entrances to the inner Earth in the west, too. Iguazu in Argentina allegedly has an entrance hidden somewhere underneath the famous waterfalls.
a great
Underneath
realistic
Mato Grosso
movie.
in Brazil is said to be the city of Posid, which was built by Atlanteans after the destruction of Atlantis. Even the United States has gateways to the Hollow Earth. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky has been known as an entrance since the first native tribes arrived there thousands of years ago.
Kentucky.
The most famous entrance to the Hollow Earth in the United States is probably Mount Shasta. It's here where the city of Telos is said to have been built and is still occupied. And there is a lot of evidence that something is happening there. I linked to an episode we did where we called Mount Shasta the most paranormal place on Earth, and it absolutely is. And these are just a few entrances to the kingdom of Gartha in North America. There are others in Arkansas, California, and other states, and several locations in Canada. Even the site of the secret underground base in Dulce, New Mexico, was said to be chosen because of its proximity to an entrance to the inner Earth. And we did an episode on Dulce Base as well. And you might have noticed that a lot of alleged entrances to the Hollow Earth coincide with locations famous for UFO sightings. And this might not be a coincidence. Whenever someone mentions a UFO, our instinct is to look up toward the sky, to space. Turns out, we might be looking in the wrong direction. When we think of UFOs, we think of extraterrestrials from a distant star. And that could be true. But there's also the theory that UFOs aren't coming from a different planet, but from inside our planet.
Oh, yeah.
Scientifically speaking, it makes more sense that there's a race.
So apparently there's like a race of futuristic people that go back in time. They're human beings. You know, apparently there's aliens that are basically just us from the future. I don't know. It seems, you know, if time travel were possible, then maybe, yeah. But I don't know.
Race of humanoid beings living within the Earth, as opposed to a race of humanoid beings who have somehow figured out how to cross the vast distances of space. And isn't it strange that the aliens we talk about are all humanoid? Whether they're the small grays, the tall whites, or even the goblin-type aliens, they all kind of look like us. 2 eyes, nose, mouth, 2 legs with feet and toes, 2 arms with hands and fingers. Even the size of the beings is close to the size of humans. Now, maybe all intelligent life in the universe evolves this way, but I would expect life in different biomes, in different ecosystems, on different planets, light years away, to look radically different than humans. But they don't. So it's possible that they're from here, just in places we can't normally see. We see a lot of UFOs coming out of the ocean, but we haven't found any type of base, at least not a confirmed sighting. So what if the base is inside the Hollow Earth, under the ocean? I can think of no better hiding place.
Far side of the moon.
Yeah, that would be a good hiding place. And there are crazy things happening on the far side of the moon, and an episode on that is coming up.
Oh,
there have been many UFOs.
There's also a place called Lagrange points that are in space that are around the Earth and the moon. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 6 Lagrange points, and it's named after the guy that, I don't know, discovered it. But there's these points in space around the Earth and the moon where if we sent a satellite there, it can just stay there thanks to the gravitational well of the Earth and the moon and, of course, the sun. It can just sit there without having to use any extra fuel, any extra, any kind of movement whatsoever. It can just sit in these, they're not even microgravity areas. There's just, because of the opposing forces of everything in our solar system, you could just sit there and not have to do anything. And there are people who say that there are UFOs that are monitoring us from either one of these points in space or all 6 or 7 of them.
UFO sightings around Mount Shasta where the object flies into the mountain and then disappears. Now, assuming the witnesses are telling the truth, and I believe they are, the objects are going somewhere. In the Arctic near the North Pole, the earliest reported UFO sightings go back to the year 1850. Captain DeHaven and his medical officer saw what they thought was a balloon, but then a second object appeared, and suddenly both objects vanished. Around midnight on January 22nd, 1952, a strange object was tracked on radar at a military outpost in northern Alaska. It was moving at 1,500 miles per hour, which no aircraft on Earth could do. 3 jets were sent to investigate, and as the jets approached, the radar blip slowed down and just hovered. A few seconds later, it streaked out of sight, heading to the North Pole, moving even faster than before. On October 5th, 1960, the ballistic missile early warning station at Thule, Greenland, thought World War III had started. Radar was tracking multiple objects moving at speeds too fast to be anything except a Soviet missile attack. Within minutes, U.S. bases in England and Canada were mobilized, and NORAD and the Strategic Air Command were alerted. A few minutes later, the radar signals changed course and disappeared somewhere near the North Pole. The military has been dealing with Arctic UFOs since 1945. The first UFO in Alaska emerged from the sea in March of that year. 14 crew members on an Army transport ship witnessed the object. It approached the ship, circled it, and then flew away. And there were many more sightings in the Arctic during this time. Inuits in the Arctic regions have encountered UFOs in the past and included them in their myths. Once, a man from the Buckland River tribe discovered what appeared to be a UFO landing site. 2 strips of land approximately 2 feet wide had been burned all the way down to the ground. On Sledge Island, Inuits have a legend of a massive ball of fire resembling the moon that descended from the sky. Shortly after the object was spotted, a creature described as a human skeleton appeared in the village. According to the legend, this visitor was not friendly and killed most of the people it encountered. These are just a small fraction of the stories about UFOs and visitors coming from the ocean, from the poles, or the middle of the Earth. So we've covered the eyewitness accounts. The next piece of the Hollow Earth puzzle is scientific evidence. We have that too. The Kola Super Deep borehole was just 9 inches in diameter, and at 40,230 feet, it's the deepest hole on Earth. It took almost 20 years to reach its depth of 7.5 miles.
Mel's hole is deeper than that.
Well, that's true, but that's another episode.
They pulled some crazy stuff out of Mel's hole.
Kola Super Deep was abandoned in 1992
See,
when the drillers
like
encountered
right up my
higher
alley.
than expected temperatures. Over 350 degrees Fahrenheit, the drill just couldn't handle the heat. 7.5 miles is a deep hole, but it's 4,000 miles to the Earth's core, so the Kola Super Deep is nothing. And since grade school, we've been taught that the Earth is made up of the crust, the mantle, and the core. And the core is 2 layers. The outer core is almost 1,400 miles thick and mostly made of liquid iron and nickel. The inner core is a solid sphere with a radius of about 750 miles. And the inner core is thought to be comprised
Susie
mostly of
with
iron
the
and
banging
some nickel.
one.
But if we've only dug 7.5 miles down, how do we know for sure what's down there? Well, we don't. But by using different methods, scientists can take a guess. The primary way we've learned about the Earth's core is through the study of seismic waves. These are waves of energy that travel through the Earth's layers. They move at different speeds depending on the density and the composition of the layer they're passing through. Further evidence comes from the Earth's magnetic field, which is best explained by a dynamo effect. This is the spinning motion of the liquid iron and nickel which generates the field. But something strange happened at the beginning of this year. The Earth's inner core stopped spinning. Now, it's believed that the core started spinning again, but in a different direction. And nobody really knows what caused this. We can only guess. A few months later, it was determined that the Earth has an inner core of solid iron about 400 miles wide. So new discoveries are always being made, and everything we know about the inner Earth is just educated guesses. Why couldn't the Earth be hollow, or at least have enormous hollowed out spaces that could support life? Now, skeptics have argued that you can't have life inside the Earth. The main reason, there's no water. Well, when the Kola Super Deep borehole was being drilled, fossilized plankton were found miles below the surface. Still, those are fossils, maybe millions of years old. What about now? Well, in 2014, scientists discovered water hundreds of miles below the Earth's surface. Not just a little water. They found so much water, you can fill all the Earth's oceans with it. 3 times.
Whoa.
So there's a lot of fucking water.
Most of the Earth's water is not on the surface, it's inside. This water exists between 250 and 410 miles under the surface in an area called a transition zone, a buffer layer that separates the upper from the lower mantle. Now, if there's water down there, I wonder what else could be down there. Well, in 2019, geologists from Princeton University published a study that surprised everyone. They used supercomputers to analyze seismic data from some of the largest earthquakes ever recorded, including the 8.2 magnitude quake that hit Bolivia in 1994. Earthquakes that big reverberate through the entire planet. We may not feel them, but seismographs can detect them. Analysis showed that beneath the surface of the Earth are vast plains and mountains taller than the Himalayas, all deep within the Earth. How deep? 410 miles, the same depth as where the water is found, the transition zone. So what about the entrances at the poles? Well, pictures are hard to find, and they're allegedly all altered by NASA, which we know they do. But there are a few photos and videos out there of the poles that show something strange. These photos were taken by the SS-7 satellite in 1968. In one photograph, the North Pole was covered by clouds. In another photograph, the same area had no clouds, revealing a massive hole where the pole would be. This was taken from the ISS in March of 2015. NASA says that's a typhoon. Fair enough. But in 1987, the Russian space station Mir recorded something at the North Pole that is definitely not a typhoon. What is this?
Oh, that was that's the whole...
The hollow Earth theory has been around for centuries.
Leaks out gas.
At one point in history, it was the mainstream
It's accidentally
scientific
set
view.
on fire.
But is there really evidence to support the hollow Earth theory? Well, yes
But
and
gas.
no.
Oh.
Modern hollow Earth theory always starts with Edmund Halley. He's a famous astronomer, which gives the theory some legitimacy. Halley put forth the idea because he couldn't explain why magnetic poles were moving. He figured there were shells inside the Earth that moved independently of each other. And he was almost right. During Halley's time, it wasn't yet known that the Earth's core spins, which creates the magnetic field. But he was correct that sections of the inner Earth can move independently of each other, including the core, as we only recently discovered. Mathematician Leonard Euler gets credit for pushing the hollow Earth theory in the 18th century. Now, I'm not sure how he became attached to the theory. There's no evidence he ever said anything about it. And the concept of Agartha as a legendary subterranean world was first mentioned in the late 19th century. French occultist and esoteric writer Alexandre Saint-Yves introduced the idea in a book he published in 1885. And according to his writing, Agartha was a place of ancient wisdom and spiritual enlightenment, but he never found actual hard evidence that it was a real place. He actually never looked. The idea caught on with other occultists and theosophists like Madame Blavatsky, but the only evidence they provide of the hollow Earth comes from visions and telepathic communication, and I'll leave it to you to determine if that's proof enough.
Yeah,
Most modern hollow Earth myths come from the Jules Verne novel Journey to the Center of the Earth. When this story was published in 1864, it was a phenomenon and made Jules Verne one of the most famous authors in the world. Before there were blockbuster films, there was Jules Verne. Now, Admiral Byrd's diary describes how he flew into the hollow Earth and had a meeting with an advanced race of beings who warned him about war and nuclear weapons. And this is a common theme in science fiction in the 1950s and 1960s. Admiral Byrd's story is basically the same plot as The Day the Earth Stood Still. It just takes place in Agartha. I covered Admiral Byrd's diary in the other episode. I also explain whether the diary is real or not. Spoiler alert, it's not. Now, the water found inside the Earth is
the
real.
goddamn business.
And when the discovery was made, we were clickbaited into thinking there are these vast oceans inside the Earth. And there may be, but that's not what this discovery showed. There is a massive amount of water in the Earth's mantle, but it's trapped inside rocks and minerals.
Oi, rocks can hold water.
Yep, lots of it. It's a process called mineral hydration. It's a
Yeah,
good
you
way to
can
lock
squeeze
water in a
water
dry
from the rock.
environment. For example, the surface of the moon is covered in water. The water is just embedded in the lunar soil. So the water inside the Earth is real, just not in a way that's obvious. And the mountains inside the Earth are also real, but also not how we might think. Again, we were clickbaited into thinking there are huge open spaces underground with mountain ranges. And you can't help but picture scenes from Godzilla vs. Kong. But that's not what they found. There are mountains of material that are denser than the material around them. It's still solid-ish material, just of different densities. The NASA video is a typhoon, and the video taken from Mir was a hoax, but you probably knew that. Now, it's true there aren't a lot of satellite pictures of the poles, and there is a lot of speculation about this. The truth is, there aren't a lot of satellites there. It's not worth taking a lot of photographs of the poles because not much changes, and photos that are almost pure white are hard to analyze. Now, there are a couple of satellites in polar orbit that measure how much the ice caps are melting.
They're not.
Well, a few years ago, you can maybe make that argument, but NASA reports that Antarctica is losing around 150 billion tons of ice per year.
Yeah, but when does NASA ever tell the truth, huh?
Now, that's a fair point. But just last week, it was reported that Antarctica is experiencing a 6 Sigma event, which happens every 7.5 million years.
Oh, this sounds bad.
Well, it ain't good, but assuming we're not all underwater, I'll get into that in a future episode. As for things I
I'm
can explain...
experiencing a 6 Ligma event. Okay, let me take a look at the campaigns. Need to make some money. Making money. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. I said stay... God damn it, I just lost 2 viewers. It's because I made the Ligma joke. It's probably because I made the Ligma joke. Let's see if this one will work. That one will not work. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rumble. Really cool. Really cool. That one didn't work either. Thanks. Awesome. All right, you know what? I'm just going to wait.
There are witness reports of UFOs flying into Mount Shasta. No video that I can find, but multiple witnesses have seen this, and I think they're probably telling the truth. UFOs are coming out of the ocean. We've all seen video of that. And if the aliens landed tomorrow and held a press conference where they said we're not from another planet, but we're from inside this planet, well, that would make sense to me. Scientifically speaking, that's more plausible than creating wormholes and bending space-time to travel through space. But until the aliens announce themselves, or until our government starts telling the truth, we're just not going to know for sure. And there are many interesting stories about the Hollow Earth. There's no way to cover them in one episode, so keep an eye out for more.
Oh, bless your heart, AJ.
Now, it's true we can't prove the Earth is hollow. It's also true we can't prove it's not. If you follow this channel, you know I try to find as much truth in these mysteries as I can. But the real truth is, some mysteries just can't be solved. And those are my favorite.
3+15+00.
All right, I actually wasn't going to include this next video, but someone insisted on it.
It's too perfect. We gotta put this one in.
He's probably right. It's an entire episode about the war between Atlantis and Lemuria. Now, I wrote this episode because while researching Agartha, I came across this story of this ancient war, and I was fascinated by it. I'm also proud of the edit. See you in a minute. For thousands of years, the world has been captivated by the mystery of Atlantis. The concept of an ancient city hidden beneath the ocean is intriguing. But what if there was not just a city, but an entire continent buried beneath the waves? The continent of Lemuria is a huge landmass believed to have sunk in the Indian Ocean after some ancient catastrophic event. Atlantis and Lemuria are similar in that they've sparked numerous theories, legends, and interpretations. But Atlantis and Lemuria are very different in one way. There's no proof of Atlantis.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenna.
In 1858, zoologist Philip Sclater made a name for himself in the scientific community. He divided the world into 6 geographic regions based on the distribution of animal species. They were Palearctic, Ethiopian, Indian, Australasian, Nearctic, and Neotropical. Sclater's system is still used today. While Sclater created his classification system, a mystery emerged: the fossils of lemurs. Lemur fossils were found in parts of South America, India,
Lemurs
Africa,
are cute as
and Madagascar.
fuck.
These areas are not connected by land, but lemurs don't swim. The question haunted Sclater: how did lemurs spread across the world? Identical species don't develop in different places at once. He had a radical answer: that there was a landmass once connecting these areas. It would need to be massive, bigger than Australia. His theory was a stretch, but it would
Yeah,
solve
no
the mysteries
shit.
he'd stumbled upon. Along with the unexplainable locations of lemurs, Sclater also uncovered extreme similarities between monkeys found in South America and Africa.
Brenna,
In
you watch your mouth
1864,
about the
Sclater
fish.
published an
Hecklefish
essay
is
about his
awesome.
theory in a scientific journal. In the essay, he refers to his proposed continent as Lemuria.
No, actually
Anterior
understand.
to the existence of Africa.
He's you got some good background, Brenna, because he comes from like old like actual like TV production and shit. You know, he comes from, you know, the world of TV and bullshit. So I can understand, you know, you being like, I don't like this fucking guy. Yeah, it's because he's from the old way of doing or not journalism, the old way of doing stuff. Anyway, so where was it that I wanted to go with this? I'll tell you where I wanted to go with this. I wanted to make sure you download the Rumble app. Once you download it, search for my channel and follow the channel directly on the app. This will make sure that you get a notification every time I go live. Click the link in the description or pinned live chat to download the Rumble app on your phone. It's free. If you prefer to watch me on the big screen, it's also available for Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Roku, LG, and Samsung TVs. All you need to do is search for Rumble. Rumble.com. Fucking nailed it. All right. Back to it. Thank you for staying here and telling me, you know, you're basically sitting here and telling me that you like my stuff, and that's really cool. Yeah, Brown, that's why he sucks. He's from the old school way of doing things. But he does do some really good, some really good, research. He does some really good, he deep dives onto shit. If you like Elle, you like what she does with the big dig. She'll dig in on a subject. That's exactly what this guy does. I have a strong feeling that he's not the one doing all of the research. Originally, when he started his channel, he was. But yeah. Japan found 10,000 unknown islands recently. Our southern oceans are unexplored. Yeah. Yeah, Pacific Ocean spits out, the fucking mantle spits out a bunch of fucking shit, so makes sense.
Its present shape, a large continent occupied parts of the
fossils of lemurs. Lemur fossils were found in parts of South America. That there was a landmass once connecting these areas. Okay. It would need to be massive, bigger than Australia. His theory was a stretch, but it would solve the mysteries he'd stumbled upon. Along with the unexplainable locations of lemurs, Sclater also uncovered extreme similarities between monkeys found in South America and Africa. In 1864, Sclater published an essay about his theory in a scientific journal. In the essay, he refers to his proposed continent as Lemuria.
Anterior to the existence of Africa in its present shape, a large continent occupied parts of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, stretching out towards what is now America to the west and to India on the east. In Madagascar and the Mascarene Islands, we have existing relics of this great continent, for which, as the original focus of the Stirps Lemurum, I should propose the name Lemuria.
This land bridge concept was popular in the scientific community at the time. Sir Charles Lyell, a well-known geologist and teacher, believed continents were rising above and sinking below the ocean routinely, just very gradually. So it's no surprise that following the publication of Philip Sclater's essay, the Lemuria theory really caught on. It turned out Lemuria may have been the answer to many scientific mysteries. In fact, Lemuria may have been the birthplace of humanity itself.
Hello, Frau. We have a Frau. Hello.
In 1864, Philip Sclater introduced the concept of Lemuria to the world. 24 years later, Helena Blavatsky, a Russian theosophist and co-founder of the Theosophical Society, published a book titled The Secret Doctrine. Theosophists, like Blavatsky, are truth seekers who study a combination of religion, science, and philosophy. They believe in an ancient wisdom that unites all major religions. The Secret Doctrine discusses the origins of humanity. It outlines a sequence of 7 root races representing different stages of human development. Currently, we are in the 5th stage, with the 6th and 7th yet to come. According to the Secret Doctrine and other writings by Blavatsky's followers, the first root race was ethereal and didn't possess physical bodies. They may have appeared as giant phantoms. The second root race was shapeless and asexual.
Okay, then I don't
engage in sexual activity.
We were ethereal.
They reproduced
were we all
through a process called
celestials
budding,
too?
which is essentially
Get
natural
the fuck out of
cloning.
here.
The third root race thrived in Lemuria and coexisted with dinosaurs. According to Theosophist W. Scott Elliott, these Lemurians were giants.
Oh, that's right. Nice.
His stature was gigantic, somewhere between 12 and 15 feet. His skin was of a yellowish brown color.
Good.
He had a strangely flattened face, eyes small but piercing, and set curiously far apart, so that he could see sideways as well as in front. The head sloped backwards and upwards in a rather curious way. The arms and legs, especially the former, were longer in proportion than ours.
Early in the Lemurian period, these supposed human ancestors laid eggs, but over millions of years, their reproductive process developed into, well, the one that we know today.
And that process has gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have engaged in the process as much as you did.
Yeah, what can I tell you? The ladies love me.
But Blavatsky and her followers weren't the only people who wrote about the Lemurians. A few years later, British writer James Churchward started writing about the sunken continent of Mu. At first, Mu was thought to be the inspiration for Plato's story of Atlantis, but Churchward connected it to Lemuria, and now many consider these lost continents one and the same. James Churchward's work is based on the translations of ancient Indian tablets. These texts are included in a series of books called The Children of Mu. The tablets describe an ancient civilization of 60 million people that was eventually destroyed.
That's interesting.
According to Churchward and others like archaeologist Augustus Le Plongeon, the sunken continent of Mu once stretched from Hawaii in the north to Easter Island in the east and almost reached Japan in the west. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan is believed to be the underwater ruins of this lost civilization. Nan Madol in Micronesia is considered the southern part of Mu. The site contains structures made of large volcanic rock logs. It's unknown who built them or how, but the society was advanced. Recent LiDAR imaging revealed an artificial irrigation system that provided fresh water to residents throughout the area. They even had a sewer system, years before the ancient Greeks or other advanced civilizations. Easter Island marks the eastern point of Mu. Take a look at Easter Island. It's a small island in the middle of nowhere. Yet it was once home to 12,000 people. How did they get there? Mainstream science says they traveled thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean in canoes. But if the continent of Mu existed, they could have just walked there. This could also explain the similarities between Polynesian languages and Greek, as well as the worship of a sun god named Ra on Easter Island, which is similar to the Egyptian sun god Ra. These similarities of language and religion suggest that these cultures either intermingled or originated from a common source. James Churchward, Le Plongeon, Helena Blavatsky, they all describe Lemuria and Mu differently. But there's one thing they all agree on. It was destroyed in a terrible cataclysm. Chan Thomas, in his book The Adam and Eve Story, presents compelling evidence that global disasters occur in a cycle. Lemuria might have been destroyed during one of these events. According to James Bramwell and William Scott Elliott, supporters of this theory, Lemuria was destroyed 11,500 years ago in a global disaster. And evidence of a global cataclysm can be found all over the earth, from the pyramids of Giza, across Africa, and even on Easter Island. Now, of course, I'm referring to the Great Flood mentioned in the myths of every culture on Earth. The flood that occurred during a period of history called the Younger Dryas. As the last ice age drew to a close, the massive ice sheets that had covered much of the northern hemisphere began to rapidly melt away. Great torrents of fresh water poured into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise dramatically across the globe.
Hey, maybe instead of the younger dryas, it should be called the younger wet ass. What?
Okay,
Coastal
Brenna, you
areas
got
were
all right.
transformed
You got
by
a
the
point,
flood.
Brenna.
The shorelines expanded
I'm not
inland by
gonna
hundreds of
argue
miles.
with you.
Entire land masses were submerged beneath the rising seas. The lives of every human on Earth were disrupted by the Great Flood. Entire cultures that had been tied to the old shorelines
You have a
were
fucking
shattered
point.
and scattered. But a few resourceful people survived and rebuilt their civilization. But this time they did it in secret and hidden far away from any future global catastrophe. But what caused the ice sheets to melt in the first place? There's disagreement about this. Some think it was the impact of a massive comet or asteroid. Others think it was a solar event so destructive that plasma from the sun stripped away the Earth's magnetic field, exposing the planet to extreme heat and radiation. Or a pole shift, which would also create a worldwide disaster. But there is one legend of Lemuria that contains a different explanation. That the Great Flood wasn't caused by an asteroid or the sun. It's said that the Great Flood was caused by people. According to Blavatsky, Lemuria was destroyed by fire. Volcanic eruptions shattered the continent into islands. Slowly, the islands sank into the sea, along with Lemurian history. James Churchward's version of the sinking of Mu is more dramatic and immediate. The civilization was obliterated in a single night of terror. Intense earthquakes shook the land. Volcanic eruptions spewed fire and ash. Relentless tsunamis engulfed the entire continent. It was a catastrophic event. In one night, everything was gone. There are even speculations that the Lemurians were eradicated by a pole shift, a sudden and civilization-ending event. Churchward's depiction resembles this cataclysmic shift. Volcanoes erupting around the world simultaneously, massive waves flooding everything, an entire civilization wiped away in an afternoon. Others propose something even more chilling. The destruction of Lemuria was not natural at all. They believe it was intentional. There is a 10,000-year-old story, which appears in books like the Chronicles of Akakor, which says the lost continents of Lemuria and Atlantis sank due to a nuclear war caused by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. And some consider the Anunnaki an alien race who created humans through DNA manipulation, then used humans as slaves.
Facts.
A full Anunnaki episode is coming up.
Oh, how you tease.
The Chronicles of Akakor tells the story of two hostile divine races that eventually went to war.
The four corners of the earth were red. The two races of gods started to dispute.
In J.J. Benitez's book, The Visitors, he recounts the alien abduction of a scientist, Daniel W. Fry, on July 4th, 1959. While Fry was on the alien vessel, they told him that they were the descendants of a race who lived on the land of Mu. They said there was another advanced civilization on Earth that we call the Atlanteans. Edgar Casey also received telepathic messages about Atlantis. He described their culture and their technology.
In our great city, we harnessed the Firestone's energy through advanced mechanics. Our domed power station concentrated the stone's rays via prisms. This energy propelled our crafts through induction, similar to your remote radio control. Though invisible, the rays powered vehicles through the air on land and sea. Carefully aligned, the stone's forces regenerated human bodies and fueled industries.
Casey also predicted that Atlantis would eventually be discovered.
The position as the continent Atlantis occupied is that as between the Gulf of Mexico on the one hand and the Mediterranean upon the other. Evidences of this lost civilization are to be found in the Pyrenees and Morocco on the one hand, British Honduras, Yucatan and America upon the other, the British West Indies or the Bahamas, and a portion of same that may be seen in the present, if the geological survey would be made in some of these, especially or notably in Bimini and in the Gulf Stream through this vicinity.
Thanks for coming,
These may
Steve
be even yet determined.
Meister.
Now keep in mind that it was 1939 when Edgar Casey predicted that
If you
Atlantis
know
would
that
be
joke,
discovered
you're like
in
40
Bimini
years
in the
old.
Bahamas. The Bimini Road wasn't discovered until 1968. According to Casey and others, Atlanteans lived peacefully on Earth for over 200,000 years. But then the Anunnaki started to influence and corrupt the leaders of Atlantis. The corrupted Atlanteans, known as the Sons of Belial, initiated a conflict with Lemuria. About 25,000 years ago, Atlantis and Lemuria disagreed on how to rule the Earth. Atlantis wanted to dominate all tribes and civilizations worldwide. But the Lemurians wanted the Earth's civilizations to develop on their own, so they ordered Atlantis to leave them alone. Atlantis refused. Lemuria insisted. Atlantis chose war.
They woke up and chose
the beginning
violence.
of the war was the year 10,468 BC. In his writing, Plato mentions 9500 BC as the year that Atlantis was destroyed. An ancient historian named Hemus reports a terrible catastrophe that occurred in 11,000 BC. But how were these civilizations destroyed? Well, the Atlanteans had extremely advanced technology and weapons.
Their technologies and weapons were beyond what we know today. Flying crafts powered by fire crystals traversed the skies. Great energy beams harvested from the earth itself fueled weapons that could level mountains.
Lemuria was not as well armed and could not avoid war.
They burned the world with solar heat and tried to draw energy from each other. Rivers have been changed, and the height of the mountains and the strength of the sun have changed. There have been continents that have been flooded.
In the end, more than 60 million Lemurians died. The survivors took refuge in Agartha and later attacked Atlantis. The Earth became unstable as a result of nuclear explosions, and because of that, the Earth's axis changed and the poles shifted. All that remained of Atlantis are ancient structures like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. The civilization of Atlantis did not survive the conflict, but about 10,000 Lemurians did survive, and they rebuilt their civilization. But this time they did it in secret. And that civilization exists today, thriving, under a mountain in California. Mount Shasta in Northern California has become synonymous with the unknown. Many who venture close to the mountain report strange events, glowing orbs, unexplained voices, and a tangible sense of another presence. Mount Shasta is also considered a vortex, a place where the boundary between dimensions is thin. Native American tribes speak of its sacred power, a spot where the spirit world is accessible. Then there are the geological mysteries. Why does Shasta have such a complex structure and so many different kinds of rock? Why do some plants grow there that are found nowhere else? Where did those plants come from? Well, legend has it that some Lemurians survived the cataclysm. The survivors traveled to North America and brought with them plants and animals and technology. They then built a city underneath Mount Shasta. They called the city Telos, the City of Light, and eyewitnesses have described the city in detail.
As you approach the hidden entrance to Telos, an energy pulsates through the ground. There is a deep humming sound and a vibration that you can feel all over your body.
It's of that actor.
Once inside, you are enveloped by a soft light that emanates
AJ
from the walls of the city. Telos is...
He as soon as AI made its way onto the fucking you know, all the AI voice mod, all the AI, you know, picture stuff. This guy did so much. He deep dived into all of it. But to his credit also, you know, it's pretty good. It's good AI. It's not like, you know, shitty, like, you know, like people with fingers like that are all molded together and molded into shit. Anyway. Yeah, Steve, thanks for being here, man. Thank you all the people that are retweeting. Thank you. Oh, hey, look at that. Frozen retweeted me. Appreciate that, Frozen. Is that why I've got a bunch of viewers here? Is that why after I did my ad read, I got close to 28 viewers now instead of doing my ad read at 20? Ah, damn it. Frozen, do me a solid next time and tell me to do an ad read after you retweet. Shit. That's fine. I got people that are donating to me. It's cool. Shout out to all my donators. All right. We've got a couple minutes left. Don't worry about it, Frozen. I'm just busting balls like you were busting balls this morning. Oh, shit. Fucking hey, man. You were guzzling it. It was awesome. Dude, you were stroking the shaft. You were cupping the balls. And then you cut the balls. Jesus. That was crazy, man. Hey, what do you know? My Rumble payment just went through. That took like 2 fucking weeks. Jesus Christ. That took for fucking ever. Thank you, Steve Areno Dankmeister, for following the channel. Steve Areno, following the channel. Big guy Steve. All right. So while we're doing that, I want to grab some Yeah, that guy does kind of suck, I know. All right. Thank you, Renee. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here. I am going to pull up some music. I think we're pretty much done with this guy, with AJ. If you do like AJ and Hecklefish, you just type in The Y Files on Rumble or The Y Files on YouTube. You can consume his content on your own time. But I think it's not really a good fit here on New Boot Goofin. Where is... Do I have... Sorry, I'm trying to pull up some other music, some other stuffs. Maybe that? We can do that? Yeah, we can do this. Okay. I'm a big fan of guns and shit. So we're gonna watch this guy's channel for the last couple minutes. It's Johnny
Now,
Johnson.
We'd like you to drop the gun slowly. What's wrong? If you don't comply...
The Browning High Power. This is a gun that has as much Hollywood prestige as it does historical significance. The High Power has been used by countless big-name celebrities in the movies. Most notably, it's been used as Eddie Murphy's sidearm in all of the Beverly Hills Cop series.
I got one.
The firearm has even been used by Brad Pitt to kill Ray Liotta in slow motion.
Killing Him Softly was one of Ray Liotta's last
let's take a closer
flicks.
look at this popular Hollywood firearm and uncover why its history and design has made it so popular. The Browning High Power is considered by many to have been the best sidearm of World War II. Reinforcing this idea was that the weapon was used often by elite units.
Susie, instead of donating to me,
and
I want you to
sides.
subscribe to
The
ROTC
High Power
Locals.
was and is reliable, and during World War II had an excellent magazine capacity of 13 rounds from a double-stack magazine, when at the time, virtually all other service pistols had a magazine capacity of about 8 rounds. In fact, the name High Power is not a reference to the caliber of the pistol, but rather to the impressive magazine capacity. The Browning High Power was designed by famous firearms designer John Browning, with the design being completed after his death by Belgian firearms designer Dieudonné Sèvres at FN Herstal. The weapon began mass production in Belgium in 1935.
Yeah, but it was started by John
The
Moses
Belgian
Browning.
army was the first to adopt the gun, despite original interest from the French. In 1940, Germany would occupy the nation and seize the plant. The Germans would incorporate the pistol into their arsenals. However, FN Herstal continued to build guns for the Allies by moving the production line to Canada. Shown here are some lovely Canadian factory workers building the guns at the Inglis munition plant in Toronto. The pistol would become popular with American, British, and Commonwealth special forces. They were also sold to Chinese nationalist forces during the war. Variants of the World War II pistol include some with adjustable rear sights and shoulder stocks. Like John Browning's other famous World War II pistol, the 1911, the Browning High Power is a single-action design, meaning the weapon has to be manually cocked before firing. Like many of Browning's designs, the gun operates on the short recoil principle, with the barrel and slide recoiling together until the barrel is unlocked from the slide by a cam arrangement, after which the slide travels backward and the spent case is ejected and the gun is recocked. The slide then returns forward under the power of the recoil spring and strips a new round from the magazine. These movements were essentially perfected and simplified from Browning's original 1911 design, which he had to work around due to existing patents.
Yeah.
The weapon was an immediate success. It's easy to service, controllable, a comfortable grip, even for those with small hands.
The Browning High Power.
Some initial minor
The
design
1911
flaws
just
were that
the way that
spur-shaped
John Moses
hammer
Browning
could bite
wanted
the
it to
shooter's
be.
hand between the thumb and forefinger while firing. Original Browning High Powers also have a small safety that can be difficult to release and re-engage. The firearm also has a magazine safety, meaning the gun can't fire if it doesn't have a magazine inserted, an unusual feature for a service pistol.
You can deactivate
The Germans
that.
simply deleted this feature
Yeah,
to
you
make
delete
production easier, and later variants removed it completely. The gun was designed for a 9mm cartridge, but has become available in several other calibers, notably .40 Smith & Wesson. Beyond World War II, the pistol became one of the most widely used military pistols in history, officially adopted by over 50 countries from 1935 onwards.
All right. That was really fun and all, but I just realized that we're cutting it really close. It is the movie riff. I am going to link to the free start of the movie riff here on Rumble, but I urge you to go ahead and jump on over to Locals. Stay if you can, so that I can show that I'm rating with at least like 2 or 3 people. But yeah, it's time for movie riff at Revenge of the Sis. Let me get the link. And of course, when I raid the first time, it's not going to work. Yeah, it never works the first time. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Rumble. Really cool. Thank you, Big B Trucker, for the first donation. All right. New Boot Goof over in the chat, if you can. And then move on over to the Locals. Purchase Locals if you aren't already for ROTC. Thank you for coming by, everybody. Yeah, single file, no running. We'll do some New Boot Goofin. Now, bye. Join Locals. Okay, and I'm going to end that stream there. Thank you for coming by again. Thank you to Casey for donating. Thank you, Killa Dodson, for donating. And thank you, Big B Trucker, for donating over on the coffee page. Gonna end that one there.